Als Scramuzza, the Crawfish King, is brought to you by the Willwoods Community, the Cher and Billy Nungesser Foundation, the Titan Group, and the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation.
I've been in New Orleans all of my life, born and bred. I'm as much of New Orleans as red beans and rice, but more like crawfish.
Everyone in New Orleans who is old enough recognizes his name and, of course, his unforgettable jingle. Als Scramuzza changed the Crescent City's culinary identity forever. Most people only know him from his outlandish commercials, but he was more than just the Crawfish King. He was a successful music producer, a politician, an inspiration to youngsters, and he rescued hundreds of lost souls by his selfless nature. This is the untold story of a man, a legend, who had it all and found his true calling when he lost it all. Al's grandfather, Charles Pascal, immigrated from Sicily in the 1800s. He became the overseer of a large plantation on the coast of Algiers, which today is English Turn. He brought lots of his friends and relatives over from Sicily. Al was born on the plantation, and his father and mother then moved to the French Quarter, where they struggled to make ends meet. Al was the youngest of 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. He grew up in the heart of the French Quarter in the 700 block of Governor Nichols in a house that years later became the home of New Orleans international businessman Clay Shaw, the only person ever put on trial and acquitted in the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. In the late 20s, the Depression hit hard, and it was tough on Al and his family.
During those times, money was tight, and that's why his mom and them had to put him up for adoption, because they just couldn't care for the children. But he grew up the hard way, but he grew up the right way.
Yeah, I lived in the French Quarter. Yes, it was like being a poor little poor son kid. Used to get bad grades. My uncle had an ice cream place that used to make the ice cream, and he was a brocado.
And he always played marbles in the street with fellas, you know.
He was playing marbles for money, and then, like you say, when you lose all your marbles, you go cry and you go home. But Al would go home and get more marbles. Al was smart when it came to doing things like that. He knew how to finagle things. So you never catch Al on down. When he's down the next day, he's right back up.
One time it made me really laugh, because the mom and sister where he lived, they said, let's hide his clothes so he can't go out in the morning to play marbles. So when he got up and didn't find his clothes, he went and put his sister's clothes on and went outside and started playing marbles. So he had a dress on.
I used to steal produce in the French market. Whatever they give you, we took. Whatever they didn't give us, we took it anyhow.
With my grandfather being very poor, he would have to go find scraps and bring them home for his mom to make gumbos or make soups that would be able to stretch to feed the whole family.
My dad had the Fray's Schoolboy shop in the French Quarters in 1912, 13, sometime during the World War. It was Papa Jim's Schoolboys. You can still see it on the wall there. He used to sell a po' boy sandwich with 24 oysters and a whole loaf of bread. Just cut the ends off for 20 cents.
Growing up in the French Quarter, Al often skipped school. He shined shoes, sold newspapers, and made his way up to City Park where he swam in the lagoons. When Al was 7 years old, his neighbor's family invited him on a trip to the country. And that's where Al ate his first boiled crawfish. He remembers it being quite tasty, even though in those days, most city folk thought of crawfish as trash food. Al's father, James Scramuzza, dropped out of the picture, and his mother worked hard at several jobs, including sewing at Wembley Ties, to keep the family together. But her valiant efforts as a single parent raising 6 children proved much more than she could handle.
My parents didn't raise me. I was a renegade. I did what I wanted. My mother was working, and I was home by myself. And the lady came over there and got me and brought me to Hope Haven. It was a place for boys. It was brothers and priests.
They had a lot of children, so she had to feed a lot of mouths, and it did get to the point to where it was very difficult. So a lot of them did spend their time at the orphanage, Hope Haven. He grew up over there for the most part.
They taught him how to play ball. He knew every football, basketball, hockey. That was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Help me to address my Lord and Savior. I was an altar boy. I was thinking that I wanted to be a priest.
He was going to join the priesthood, he said, and he went there, and then he found out priests couldn't have had sex. He said, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do something else in life.
Al returned to the city from Hope Haven across the river when he was 13. He went to Warren Easton High School, where he got his first taste of music, playing the clarinet with New Orleans' legendary clarinetist Pete Fountain.
I love the fact that Al Scramuzza and Pete Fountain were colleagues in the Warren Easton High School band, both playing clarinet. Both those guys, of course, became incredible New Orleans characters. So apparently there was something in the water fountains at Warren Easton back in the day that created these incredibly memorable New Orleans icons, which Pete and Al grew up to become.
With World War II in full swing, Al, like many young men of his great generation, decided to sign up for military service. He enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1945 and served 4 years. He was discharged just 1 month before the Korean conflict. He then decided to join the Merchant Marines and traveled all over the world for 2 years.
I was in the Navy. Yeah, World War II.
He used to be in charge of the linens on the ship. They didn't try to trade him with the people that were there in the country, wherever he was, Hawaii or wherever. He traveled all over.
To come on side, and Al would give him sheets for their bed, and they'd give him booze.
He was bad.
I wouldn't listen to him. My bad behavior saved my life.
He got in trouble, and they put him in the brig. All his friends were on the ship, and he left.
Most of them got gunned down by the Japanese Zero fighters.
Most of them all were killed. The ship was blown up. He would have been killed too, probably. He wouldn't have been in the brig.
When Al returned home in 1949, he met his wife, and he found a job selling shoes at the Abe Weiner Shoe Company. He didn't find that job rewarding. Scramuzza then moved back to the French Quarter, and he operated a fruit stand inside of a supermarket at Camp and Calliope. Back then, supermarkets didn't want to fool with produce, so they leased space to fruit sellers. Then Scramuzza introduced shrimp, crabs, and fish. He opened another fruit stand at another nearby grocery. One day, when Al was waiting for his produce truck to show up, he saw another truck with the driver trying to sell 140 pounds of crawfish. No one in the city ate crawfish back in those days, but Al was fast becoming a shrewd businessman. He negotiated with the guy back and forth, telling him those crawfish wouldn't last any longer because he forgot to put them on ice. So the trucker gave in to Al's steal of a deal, saying, "One of us is crazy."
He offered to give him the crawfish like on a consignment situation, like, well, look, just take them, and whatever you could sell, just pay me for what you can sell. He ended up selling a little bit of it and, you know, paid a guy, and the guy started coming to him, bringing him crawfish. So he tried to find ways to sell it and get people's attention.
I got 2 young kids, you know, and I got them with a fishing pole, and I tied a crawfish on the string, and I made one stand on one side of the Neutrogena board, yeah. And the crawfish hanging on the string like that, and the people would pass by and say, what is that, what is that? And the little boy says, crawfish over there in Broad by your road, go over there.
One day after Al received a shipment of fresh crawfish, he got the bright idea to secretly follow the seafood truck back to the bayou to see where the driver was getting his sacks of mud bugs. Al found the driver was buying them from a bartender named Berthelot for only 3 cents a pound and selling them to Al for 8 cents. So Al made Berthelot a deal to cut out the middleman. He would go on to buy all he could from the bartender for just 5 cents a pound. At the time Al introduced crawfish to New Orleans in the early 50s, the city was made up of 80% devout Catholics who obediently kept the vow of fasting and no meat Fridays during Lent. That made Louisiana's Crawfish King very happy.
On a Friday during Lent, well, he hustled them to where they would buy crawfish, and the bars would give it away. Once people started eating them, well, you know, they're going to stick around, especially if you put a little cayenne in it. You're going to have to drink a few beers. That's kind of, I think, where he got it really rolling.
He and a fellow dealer down the street on Broad Street invented the crawfish industry in Louisiana for all intents and purposes. There were Cajuns from other areas that lived in the city and would boil crawfish at home. But as far as being able to buy crawfish to eat in this city, it was Al.
In the 50s, Al was a rising star in New Orleans' seafood business. In '61, he bought a small 20 by 40-foot building at 1826 North Broad. Within 6 years, his business was booming. It grew so fast, he bought the entire city block, and Seafood City became one of the largest seafood dealerships in the Gulf South.
The crawfish industry would not be what it is today around the world had it not been for Al Scramuzza. Anything you do in life, you have to do with passion, and he took that to the next level. Al had such love and passion for the seafood that he sold, for New Orleans, for Louisiana, and for people in life. And he lived larger than life, and that passion drove his success in business.
He was very bold, you know. I guess that's why he was the king, because he just took this crawfish thing to another level. I heard of crawfish because my cousins in the country, they would catch them and they would borrow them, you know, but it didn't take like hours.
When Al first started selling crawfish, he was ordering 10 sacks a day, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, he would order 25. He once sold out in 2 hours, but one day he wasn't selling anything, and he was stuck with 10 sacks of live crawfish. So he rigged up 6 large burners, boiled them in his own made-up special seasoning, and he sold them for 25 cents a pound.
This one's got about 14 ingredients. Can't tell them all to you if you give my secret away.
He invented the crawfish to be a popular party dish. You want to have a backyard party? Go to Als Scramuzza, get you a sack of crawfish.
Al is the icon in the city, and I always say, you know, if it wasn't for Als Scramuzza, y'all wouldn't be eating crawfish today.
Probably the best, not book businessman, but intuitive businessman I've been around. And sometimes the things that he did, like staying open till 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, it didn't make sense. A seafood market, you know, but that all made sense after a while, after I watched his business. And he was inventive.
Originality. I think anything that's real really sells. If it's imaginable, it sells. If it's funny, it sells. If it's sincere, it sells. You know, all of those things count.
Every dealer in the city, with the exception of 2, were Italian. They all knew each other, they were all intimate, familiar with each other, and they were ruthlessly competitive. It was like a horse race with no rules. Everybody could run their horse in every direction and do anything they wanted. And crawfish were really starting to catch on with people. People were afraid of crawfish. People didn't know how to cook them, didn't know how to peel them, didn't know how to eat them.
He was so much of a promoter, and he'd advertise price.
He used to call me up and say, I want a party and I need 15,000 pounds of crawfish for a certain day. I can give them all to you freshly boiled that same day.
Al appeared on numerous national and local TV shows to demonstrate for viewers how to purge, boil, peel, and eat crawfish.
Hey, this thing fresh? There's just a few crawfish in there. Oh, yeah. Crawfish. Oh, how did crawfish get in there? Don't you know I'm in the seafood business? You're in the seafood business? Yes, Seafood City, 1826 North Broad. Oh, I didn't know that.
It wasn't that his crabs were bigger or better. It was Al himself. I mean, he had a personality bigger than life. People queued up in lines that went around the entire city block on Broad Street on Saturday mornings to get his crawfish. It was impressive.
I can't tell you how many pounds a day, but I used to do hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds. Used to make a lot of money.
Man, I had to drive from my house uptown, way downtown, to get my crawfish. I wouldn't buy them nowhere else. He had the right combination of spices.
And he had a cooler that was 30 foot by 50 foot and packed this sucker to the ceiling with crawfish and crabs. And I thought he was going out of his mind. And he'd sell every one of those things by the end of the week. Hard worker, outworked everybody under the table.
Yeah, there's some good.
It'd stay there 24/7 for 2 or 3 days if he needed to cook crawfish. I cooked crawfish 2 days straight, just trying to keep up with the crawfish. There was so many of them.
I remember as a little kid back in the 70s and early 80s, we were going down to Seafood City, and there Al was and his magic. And I just remember as a little kid going in there and just smelling the place, and then the sights and the sounds, and just seeing the activity. It was an exciting thing.
Everywhere as we go, they recognize Al. Even sitting in the car. I mean, we could be anywhere and they come up. Is that Al Scramuzza? Yeah.
Al Scramuzza is crawfish, and he is New Orleans, Louisiana, and just will forever be remembered and be an integral part in bringing us together around crawfish as families.
He had quite a business. He just had good seasoning. He invented it himself, and his grandson has the combination now.
I would go there with my father at times. Some nights my grandmother would actually bring me there after it was closed if I would spend the night over at my grandparents' house. And she'd go unlock it, open it up. And I was so little, I didn't know how to peel it. She'd peel them all for me and spoil me.
He had the knack of knowing what people needed and how to present it. He made a lot of people believers that didn't believe, especially when you could eat crawfish. Nobody eats those things except for Al.
None do that.
Nobody can put commercials together the way Al did.
I had no writers, I was the writer. I had no producers, I was a producer. I had no directors, I was the director.
Al would have them on Saturday nights in the movie time. Morgus and all would come on, and he'd buy up all the commercials. And I think he said, if I'm not mistaken, $10 a commercial. And he would flood the whole TV station with them. So that's how Al became known so well.
Because they were just natural. Eddie Bo did it because Eddie Bo was a good musician. Eddie put the music together. I put some wording together, just normal, something out of the wind. That was all my friends and relatives, my nieces, my nephews, my grandson, my son.
You saw his commercials as kids and Watch Morgus, which was a great program for a young kid to watch, and you got to watch the horror movies. So I've been knowing about him for a long time.
I remember him being happy about and proud of his writing. He said, "Man, I wrote the words myself. I produced it. I came up with the music." He was proud of that, man. Seafood City, very pretty. You gotta give it to him, man. It was catchy, bro.
Dr. Scramuzza. I've been having a bad backache. Can you help me, please?
Take this prescription for 3 dozen class for 3 weeks. You should have vibrations all down your spine.
Thank you, doctor.
Seafood City is a very pretty town of Broad and St. Bernard. That's Seafood City, 1826.
Al came up with the idea of playing a doctor in his TV commercials when he met a young, attractive nurse who was in town for a medical convention. He was single at the time, and he invited the nurse to the TV studio where he was producing another series of his zany crawfish hawking commercials. The nurse never showed, and Al was stuck with his doctor's coat and stethoscope, so he improvised searching each crawfish for a heartbeat, the TV spot which may be everyone's favorite.
Oh, you're nice. Oh, look at this. Oh, you're nice. Oh, this is cardiac arrest. No good. Brush your teeth.
Another favorite spot done by Al was filmed on the same day, when Al, as the Crawfish Doctor, prescribed the seasoned mud bug for any ailment.
Oh, take this crawfish good medicine. I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. Seafood City is a very pretty town of Broad and St.
He took promoting crawfish to a new level, like no one else had ever done it, and really no one's done it since then. When those commercials came on TV, crawfish sales went up, I bet you 500%. The commercials got you excited about crawfish. They made you want to go out there and get some, and then when you got there, he embraced with the customers.
Every big holiday, we'd get together for family gatherings. Back then it was the VHS, you know, the cassette players or whatever. And we'd pop one in a VCR and we'd watch all the commercials and all laugh at them. You know, it was definitely part of our upbringing.
Dr. Scramuzza, my entire family has the virus. Can you help me?
Take this prescription for 3 pounds of shrimp 3 times a week. Make good combo. Ancient Louisiana cure make anybody feel good again.
Thank you so much, doctor.
Seafood City, 1826.
I really set a mood for satire commercial. I thought of something and I wrote a jingle that thousands of people like. Seafood City is a very pretty down on Broad and St. Bernard.
As a kid growing up in New Orleans, I would of course see all the various Seafood City commercials, and I was always fascinated by the jingle, the wave. It's like, who are these people? Who is this guy? Is he really there at the store? Like, part of me thought he was too big of a celebrity to actually be there at the store.
Scramuzza didn't just want to be the king of crawfish. He also wanted some of the national spotlight that the New Orleans music industry was enjoying in the 60s and 70s. In 1969, Al's music interests began resurfacing. He produced a number of national Billboard R&B and soul music hits, and today still owns his Scram Records and Uza music label.
I was in the recording business. Eddie Bo and me, we put our #1 R&B. Name of it was Hook and Sling.
Al would finance the sessions. And Eddie would tell us, hey man, look, could you guys be in the studio in the morning? So we go there at Cosmo Studio, and there's Al Scramuzza. Come to find out, Al was the producer of this session. Eddie would come up with some ideas and give us the tempo and see can we get something happening. And Al would be there with, I guess, his musical ear to make sure he gets what he wants out of this session, because he's paying for it. We had a hit with a Hook and Sling. It was me and James Black, George Davis, and Eddie Bo. Now that was a hit. I think it got in the 100s on Billboard. And he had another semi-hit with Mary Jane Hooper, Teach Me.
Teach me how to kiss.
I also played bass on that session. Another song was Sissy Walk, We're Doing Our Thing. So I did about 4 songs with Scram Records.
Al kind of plunged into the music industry when it was sort of the Wild West and put out some records that did all right with his Scram Records label, which was a clever play on his name, Scramuzza. He also had a label called Uzza Records, which was the back half of his name.
In typical Scramuzza fashion, Al found a unique way to put seafood into song.
I said it goes like this. You got to pick up your feet. You got to get your feet and do the crawfish.
He loved music, man. He loved music more than anything. I think more than the crawfish business, you know. And he wanted to be part of New Orleans history as making music.
He had a little melodic sense about him. I mean, his jingle for the seafood shop was quite catchy. So he, you know, I think he fancied himself a music guy. So it made sense that he would stick around in that industry for as long as he could.
And it goes like this.
As successful as Scramuzza was with the fast-growing seafood industry and then later with his R&B songs hitting the national charts, it was sometimes too much for Al to juggle.
He double-booked Johnny Adams one night. Him and Eddie Bo had an idea. They can put Johnny in Thibodeau starting at 8 o'clock, do a show in Thibodeau, and the gig in Slidell was for 9 o'clock. You're talking about an hour-and-a-half drive. But what happened in Slidell, Johnny didn't show. There was a ruckus at the front door, you know, like people getting upset, like, "Where's Johnny?" Man, hitting on the table, man, and somebody grabbed the cigar box with the money in it. And when they grabbed the money flew everywhere. People grabbing the money, man, they beating up Eddie Bo, you know. So we had to haul out the back door and run in the woods, man, you know. And Al say, "I'll never do it again," you know. I said too late.
In the recording studio, like at Seafood City, Scramuzza was hands-on. He wanted things done a certain way, his way.
He let Eddie Bo kind of like take care of the music part of it. If it wasn't feeling good to him, he would tell Eddie, try another approach to this song, you see, you know. So he had, he wanted to make sure that he could dance to it. When the song was right, you see him smiling, man, from ear to ear. He's a wacky guy, funny guy, loud. He would sit in the audience till he just can't take no more. He'll get up there, man, and grab a tambourine and sing with Eddie Bo, loud and have a good time, you know. And it was so funny because we would just laugh at him, But he was doing this thing, man, and by him doing that, he would bring the audience up, another notch. So he was very gutsy, man.
By the 1970s, Al was the center of the growing culinary industry, a big player in New Orleans' famous music circles, and now it was his time to try another Louisiana popular pastime.
I wanted to be in politics. I ran for the legislature. I lost.
Al excelled at sort of the holy trinity of life in Louisiana: music, food, politics. Everyone rewards being a bit of a character, especially in Louisiana. Al was certainly a character, and that resonated with people.
A bus he bought with his name all over it. Him and a friend would drive the bus. They'd pick up people to go vote and things like that. He loved Edwin Evans.
He was such a well-known, respected member of the community. It was only natural that he'd take that next step. It just shows there was nothing he wouldn't undertake if he had a passion for it and believed in it.
In 1983, there was a new seat that was going to be open in District 98, which is the district I live in. And if I'd have got 200 or 300 more votes, I probably would have been elected because I think I would have won in the second primary. I wound up with about 3,500 votes. A lot of people didn't think I was serious, but I was very serious. Vote Scramuzza, don't be a loser. His number is 55.
At the peak of his crawfish business, Scramuzza was selling 175,000 pounds of crawfish every week, not to mention the thousands of pounds of shrimp, fish, crabs, and other seafood. He was making millions of dollars. But in the early 80s, he was on the cusp of a personal moral upheaval. one that would literally bring him to his knees.
All the problems in my life that I've ever had was not about drinking or gambling and my addictions. It was just about me. And I would not face the problems, would not try to conquer the problems. I'll just run away from the problem with alcohol and gambling.
Al was addicted to anything that he thought felt good at first, but ultimately tried to kill him. Al and other addicts are always looking for something either to escape life with or actually to be in action.
He was a high roller. He could take 30 people with him on the plane, go over there, they'd all have the rooms. He would put his luggage down and he would not go into the room. It would be still in the lobby. And he'd go gamble right away. Sometimes 3 days in a row, he was gambling. Never went to bed or nothing. He just loved it and lost a lot of money. He might lose $40,000 one weekend, and next time he go back, maybe he'd win a little something.
Al had a very bad bottom, financially, mentally. Addictions will take you down quicker than you can imagine. And Al's problem was Al, and he says it all the time. It wasn't my business, it wasn't my relationship. The problem, he said, my name is Al, and the problem is Al. I'm the problem. Not the alcohol, not the gambling, it's me.
We'd go to the wet t-shirt contest and the gong shows they used to have, the discotheques, and they'd invite Al to be the judge. And it was all about having a good time. You go out with Al, you couldn't spend your money. Everything was on Al. He'd take care of everybody. He'd play pool 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Because when you're drinking and you're gambling, I and Al, you're in hog heaven. You think this is the best, I got it all.
I used to like to drink gin. Yeah, I used to get drunk.
At one of the Endymion balls, we had both had too much to drink, and I was wetting napkins, and I was saying, Al, this one's got a heart attack, and I was throwing them at him, and I was hitting him with the wet napkins on the face, and people thought it was cruel. We had a lot of fun with it.
The gambling got real bad. Whatever I could find to gamble, I grab it.
Als Scramuzza and Edwin Edwards both had plenty of money, so they were like the whales, they called. Here comes the two whales, and they sit them at a table and comp everything for them to keep them there. They would give them a credit line, $10,000, $20,000, but that was a lot of money back then. And sometimes they'd have to wire home to his shop to get more money so he could get back home.
We ran a business while he was in Vegas. You could always tell when Al won, he'd come into place singing Seafood City and having a good old screaming, and Al having a good old time. And when he lost, he'd come in there with that little bag and he had a full beard and he would go straight to his office and stash his money in the bag, whatever he had left.
Coming down to Scramuzza, we'll sign you, fill your prescription for you every day. You never get sick again.
We drank and we gambled and we smoked and we ripped and run all the time. That's why we got along so well.
Al gambled legally in Las Vegas and illegally in New Orleans, where he could be found all hours of the day and night in any of a handful of outlawed card games.
Gambling was against the law.
They would call it backroom games, and it would just be a room, and you'd have the people bringing you your drinks and stuff, and you would sit there sometimes 2-3 days at a time. They wouldn't let you leave when you were winning. They made sure when you left, you were broke. They didn't want anybody to be a winner. Sometimes they had some shootings at some of those dice games and card games. These guys came in to rob, and they had a card game going on. So the robbers told everybody in the room, take off your pants and on, drop them.
They made us take our pants off and empty the pockets out and put the money there and give it to them. Took all the money and left us with our pants on the floor.
Al was a kid. He was telling the story. He said everybody was trying to grab for their pants and the robbers were running out the door shooting.
Al talked about, I went back and got more money out of my safe and went back and found another game that night.
Between high-roller gambling and drinking every day, Scramuzza was wearing himself out. He and the people closest to him knew he was about to hit bottom, and it wasn't going to be very pretty.
Al went from rags to riches to reg, back to reg. In other words, that means back to being Al. And it was the 4th of July, and every year Al would barbecue and the drinks were flowing. And Al was telling somebody at the party that he quit drinking. And then he realizes he's got a beer in his hand. Al said, I took that beer and I threw it against the thing and it broke. He said, and I got into a program I never had a drink since. 1984 is when he quit drinking.
He just gave it up, gave smoking up, gave the gambling up, and he went to the meetings. He was tired.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just made up my mind. I wanted to just stop gambling.
It got so where his business was suffering, his family was suffering, and that's what addictions do. They take you away from the people that you love, and it becomes mandatory that you do it every day, and that's what he had to do.
I mean, he gambled for maybe 30 years. All the money he made went.
I worked the steps and learned about recovery.
Scramuzza walked into the rooms of the 12-Step Fellowship and began a spiritual journey, one which would turn his life over to God and change his life forever.
I quit gambling in 1988, and you want to know if this thing works, you know what I mean? It works if you just keep the faith and work it. People ask me, how'd you get to Gamblers Anonymous? And I can only explain that in one sentence. Divine Providence sent me here, and I'm so grateful for it.
We all have a hole inside that we want filled. You know, everyone wants that filled, and it's usually best done with relationship and love. And if for some reason relationships aren't meeting that need, if love isn't being received in a certain point in life, then we start to fill it with other things.
We all did the drinking, and years later, we all went to the program and got sobered up, and he got into the sports with all the kids at Johnny Bright.
If you're into something and then it's really not good for you, it's kind of nice to replace it with something else and you're a positive role model. And that's what he's done for 34 years. He coached almost every sport. He coached basketball with me for quite a few years. Real good soccer coach. We won a lot of soccer championships. If we had leagues where we were short kids, no one was gonna call more kids. No one's gonna try to hustle up more kids than he would. And a lot of times, he didn't take no for an answer. He was gonna stick with it until they came through and decided that they were gonna play.
That's it. You gotta be ready to play, son. Put your mouthpiece in.
I was 11 years old, trying to make the biddy basketball team at Johnny Bright Playground. I did not make it, I got cut. I went home, I told my parents that I never wanted to play basketball again. Al knocked on my door, and Coach Al said, you should consider coming back and playing for my All-Star team. And of course, as a little kid, you hear All-Stars, and you jump up and you say, I'm ready to run through the brick wall, let's go.
Al treated everybody like his son or daughter, no matter what sport he was coaching. He showed a lot of respect for me when my son was recruited by Tulane. He actually called me up and says, how's Richard doing? I'm glad he picked Tulane. I even told him, I said, Al, I said, everything started with you at Johnny Bright.
I ended up losing my dad when I was 17, you know, and kind of went through some bad stuff, went away for probably a year. And when I came back, I came right to Al's house and said, hey, I'm back. He said, good, I got a basketball team. He said, you want to go? I said, yeah, let's go. We picked right back up. And I just found it to be like a safe place, like a sanctuary where you don't think about, you know, the hardships of life or what everybody goes through.
All the kids know him as Coach Al. And to this day, we go out and eat somewhere, and those little kids are now big kids. They look at him and say, aren't you Coach Al? And Al said, that's me. Those kids loved him, and so did the parents, because he knew how to guide kids, being that he went through a rough childhood. he wanted to see other children advance and be happy as a child, you know.
He's really touched my life. Early on, bad kid, parents split up, in and out of schools, find myself in a bad situation. I was running with a bad crowd. We're here at the playground. I'm in the back of a cop car in the parking lot. And Al comes out the gym. Next thing you know, they take me out the back of the cop car, take the handcuffs off me, and Al drives me home to my house.
Scramuzza not only dedicated the rest of his life to coaching and mentoring thousands of kids at the neighborhood ballpark, but he started spending countless hours sponsoring other troubled addicts, helping them transform their pain into power.
When I got into a program, AA and GA, Uncle Al was already there before I got there. And I recognized him, I looked at him, I said, "Geez, Al, what are you doing here?" He goes, "Oh, I got a seat for you, sit down there, son." I said, "Sit down there for what?" He goes, "Weren't you a gambler and an alcoholic?" I said, "I don't know for sure." He said, "Well, sit down and we're gonna talk about it." So I did, and he kind of like took me under the wing like he took many people in the program, and he showed me how to live life.
The first time that I went into the recovery room, I was humiliated, defeated, beaten up, and I walk into the room and I see Als Scramuzza, and I said, "Oh my goodness, how is this gonna help me?" I had known Al as a quirky, crazy commercial crawfish guy. I tried 1,000 times and nothing worked. So basically I had to surrender to Als Scramuzza, of all people. But boy, if that's not God's joke, I don't know what is. But it worked. It worked.
I have a lot of good memories of me and Al being together, drinking and gambling. But then it was all like the show was over, and you had to learn to grow up, take responsibility, and be a man. That was difficult, but it wasn't so bad. Getting to any 12-step program, when you're able to get in there and know someone in the room that you did the addiction with. And that's why me and Al bonded so close.
He just would talk to them and meet with them and, respond to them. He really saved their lives, a lot of people, from gambling. And a lot of them lost their homes, their marriage. They just couldn't give up gambling.
I was just one of hundreds of people that Al actually took on and sponsored and brought back to life and taught how to live a good, healthy, spiritual life.
Welcome to Als Scramuzza, we're headed to heaven. Come down to eat these crawfish, they are colossal.
The relationship, even though at first, started off like, wow, Al, ended up being, wow, Al. Because, this guy was just, he was the opposite of what I guess anybody had the image of. He was really a down-to-earth, spiritual being that helped people find a power greater than themselves. It was like, it was life courses by Al.
It takes a special person later in life to stand up and say, I had a gambling problem, I had a drinking problem, and live as long as he did to tell it and to be honest and upfront about it.
Al, like most of us, have gone through the wicked bad times, the mistakes, falling, and learning from all of that, and then being broken, and then Al coming to heal me, coming to heal others. It was a healing process that continues to this day. It's a journey. It's progress. It's not perfection. And Al taught me all of that.
Scramuzza's new way of living and the 12-step fellowships made Al a strong believer, and it helped guide him through life's adversities, such as when he lost his Gentilly home in 2005 to Hurricane Katrina. The storm destroyed decades of memorabilia, hundreds of TV tapes, music recordings, films, videos, and thousands of historic pictures. Al's strong faith in a power greater than him, a faith he gained in the 12-step rooms, powered him through yet another personal tragedy, when he lost his son on New Year's Day 2012.
Al had 3 daughters, and that was his only son. So when little Al died, it really affected him. It really hurt him to think that, his only son would go out the way he did. being so young. Actually, Al was in the program before Daddy was. And little Al sponsored many, many people in different programs. And they still talk about him to this day.
You never know what somebody's dealing with on the inside, you know, but he stayed strong for the family, and no parents should have to experience that with a child. I mean, it's just a sad thing to have to go through for a parent.
Years later, the Crawfish King made a comeback on local television.
Coach Als Scramuzza is back.
Is our Bromar's team ready to win? Yeah! Guys, that's the game plan. Yeah! Our Bromar fan.
Al made a resurgence with his special crawfish boil seasoning. The city's most colorful showman promoted his plastic jugs of spices, which could be found on grocery shelves all across the Deep South.
Now it was 1525 Elysian Field.
Al's closely held secret crawfish boil seasonings include 15 different ingredients of herbs and spices. A recipe that is still kept very much a secret today, only shared with his grandson Tony, who now runs Scramuzza Seafood in Kenner.
I have some real apprehensions about leaving, you know, after doing something for 45 years, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's like maybe losing a member of the family, a close relative.
Seafood City closed in 1993 when Al reached retirement age. As New Orleans' most popular television advertising icon, Al Scramuzza reigned supreme in the world of New Orleans seafood for decades, and he was recognized as such with innumerable awards and honors by countless organizations, parade crews, and public officials. In 2017, Al became the first recipient of the Louisiana Seafood Champion Award presented by Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser.
Hey, how you doing?
So, Mr. Al, on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor, the state of Louisiana, and the Seafood Promotion Board, we say Al Scramuzza of Seafood City as the 2017 Louisiana Seafood Champion for his tireless efforts promoting and providing Louisiana seafood to the world. Thank you so much.
It's been a long time since you had boiled crawfish 3 pounds for $1.
And when the Crawfish King turned 90 years old, Nungesser showed up with a special crawfish cake for Al at a citywide birthday celebration. The birthday bash attracted hundreds of Al's loyal fans. Al was also honored by Warren Easton High School, which would have been his official alma mater if he hadn't signed up for World War II.
And then we're going to indoctrinate Al into the Hall of Fame of Warren Easton, him and Harry Connick Sr. And there was like 500 people show up there. And Uncle Al gets on the stage, and the first thing you wouldn't know he would do was say, Seafood City. He starts singing the song, and he had the whole place jumping up, clapping and screaming and hollering. And then Al said, I have something to tell y'all that y'all might not know. He said, I never graduated from Warren Easton. He said, I quit school when I was 17 and I joined the Navy. And the whole place went crazy, man, because they thought him and Harry Connick graduated together. And he didn't.
They have his picture on the wall with all the other famous people. Many, many people went there.
This is a disease that really is an emotional disease. I just run away from the problem with alcohol and gambling. What really saved my life is my divine providence. And I start living a better life, treat my family in a better manner, treat myself in a better manner. And life is beautiful.
When I first got into the recovery programs, Al reminded me that spirituality and religion are two different things. Religion is for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for people like us who have been to hell and don't want to go back.
People like music and people like boiled crawfish. So he checked all the boxes of fun things that New Orleanians and Louisianians appreciate. You know, and yeah, he's one of those guys that you can't make up. Yeah, I think back at the classic Seafood City commercial with him in the kind of beige leisure suit with it open at the collar, and he's got the mustache and the nose. You know, he's kind of like this you know, disco era yacht hobbit kind of character.
He's a man like any other man, you know, a person like any other person, with our cracks, with our flaws, with our brokenness, and in spite of that, did remarkable things. And it's a good lesson to all of us. He didn't put his best foot forward and just show the mask that many of us attempt to do on a daily basis. He actually put that mask down and has let people know, I've struggled with this.
He told me what it's like to be rich and what it's like to be poor. And he says now that he doesn't have all the things and money that he acquired early in life, he's happier today without it.
The world needs more people like Al. What he did for countless kids and grown people is unmatched.
He wants to help everybody out. He's always out there trying to help somebody out, always has. Just a good-hearted guy and fun, a lot of fun.
Well, our solution is to live life to its fullest and stop worrying. Live one day at a time and stop worrying about the past and stay in the moment. He said, and anything that seems to be a problem today, tomorrow will be another day to work on it, and it won't be so bad.
Yeah,
That's not you.
I'm the Crawfish King.
I just love to watch him sing on stage, and he would disappear, and all of a sudden I'm looking and he's on the stage. Somebody came and got him and brought him up there. They just love him, wherever he goes.
He loved to dance. He loved to sing. He loved to make people smile. Yeah, loved to feed people.
Everybody that met him fell in love with him. That's why he got his name Uncle Al at. When I first heard it, a lady called him Uncle Al. I said, is that really your uncle? He's everybody's uncle.
I think Al will be remembered most, of course, as the Crawfish King. I think the other side of Al probably needs to be remembered more than that even, and that is the saving of lives, saving of souls in recovery rooms. I don't think anybody until this time knows that story of Al's life, is how Al literally saved hundreds of lives.
Yo. Dig me, I'm doing a sissy. Dig me, yeah, I'm doing a sissy with my bad self. I want y'all to listen to me. You throw your left leg with pride, yeah, and then your right.
Give him a crawfish. Oh, I feel good.
You're doing a sissy, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now here's the way you put it together, baby. Baby, listen to me. It goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Do it 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Doing the sissy, yeah, yeah, yeah. Baby, dig it, dig brother Mark. Ha. He's doing a sissy walk. Big brother Mark. He's doing a sissy walk. And he got a groove, y'all. He's got a groove, y'all. Sing it, ain't it a groove? Ha. Ain't it a groove? Ha.
1826 Road, Seafood City, ain't it pretty?
Be making a change. Stay right with me, y'all.
Scramuzza the Crawfish King is brought to you by the Willwoods community, the Cher and Billy Nungesser Foundation, the Titan Group, and the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation.